Alright, now that I am done with the Red Dead Redemption General Store, and I've shown some final renders, and this is one of them, I was asked if I would talk about how I created the wall, and that's what I'm going to do in this video. So it's a separate video just about creating the wall. Just before I start that, I want to mention that a while back I did a series called the Post-Apocalyptic Classroom. And in that I also did some wall effects very similar to this, but a little bit different. And so I'm going to link you to the video where I do the texturing and potentially the timestamp for when that texturing starts, so you can compare the methods and see which one you like. This one's going to be a little more straightforward and a few less layers. But anyhow, over here in Substance Painter, I just have a long plane. Really what I did is I had one plane that was, you know, the typical size when you bring it in, and I just arrayed it 3 times, merged it all, got rid of any extra, you know, edges in there. So I really have just 4 vertices, and that's it. It's not subdivided or anything like that. And we're going to imagine that this is our wall, and we're going to go ahead and build it up. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, and this is going to take a number of layers, but none of them are complicated really. I'm going to create a fill, and I think this is going to be our base layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use color and roughness. I think for this I'll bring the roughness up, and I'll bring the color down to a sort of a gray. This will be like our, whether it's concrete that you get wallpaper over that, or some kind of wood or drywall or something like that. So I'm going to do that, and I think I will do a black mask and a fill, and in the fill I'm going to search for concrete, and use this first one that I've got here, this concrete 006, and just put that in. That's going to be my main base layer underneath. So I'm just going to call this base. And above that I'm going to create another fill, and I'm going to use color and roughness, maybe a little bit of height. I think I'll try putting this at 0.05 and we'll see. But this one, now you can use, you know, whatever colors you like. I'm going to try sort of a brownish, kind of almost rust kind of color. I'll bring the roughness up there, and we'll see. You could actually throw in rust here if you wanted, for example, and I may actually do that. Let's come to materials and type rust, and let's say I took this rust coarse and threw that in the base color, and you would get that. And you might prefer that. It might work out better as long as I've got the roughness up and I still got my height. So alright, I'm going to call this edges, and you'll see what I mean by that later. I'm going to create a folder for these, and I'm going to take both of these and put them in the folder there, that one and that one. And that's going to be something like maybe we'll call it just base, or really this is going to be the wall itself. Alright, so we're going to come back to that in a bit. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create another folder right away. I'm going to call this wallpaper, and I'm going to create a fill inside, and here I'm going to be using color, roughness, probably height. Let's just drag the roughness up. In the base color, that's where I want to put my wallpaper. And so what I'm going to do is go to my resources, and I have, you know, various fabrics and stuff. I have a folder here, fabric and wallpaper. And the one that I used was this one. And another one that works well, I find, is this one here. And I'll see if I can link you to these. I'm not sure where I got them from, but I'm just going to take this and I'll try this. I just didn't really want this pattern in my scene, but it actually works well. So do that, and then define it as a texture and bring it in just to your current session. And there it is. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag that into the base color. So I've actually got the color from the thing, but we can change that. Now I'm going to tile this, and I'm going to try something like 6 times and have that there. Alright, so this is my actual wallpaper. And on this layer, I want to make a couple of adjustments to it. I think I'm going to come in here, add a filter, and choose this HSL. And this here, you can desaturate it if you want to. You can change the hue a little bit. So I had mine a little bit green. You can drop this down. Okay, the lightness becomes a little bit more visible. So maybe I'll just leave it like that, and we'll see how it goes. I want to start decolorizing this a little bit, or adding some damage or grunge or whatever. Anyhow, I'm going to create another fill layer, and I'll go for color and roughness, and I'm going to bring the roughness up, and the color I'm going to go for sort of a brownish kind of a color. Let's just try that. I'll add a black mask and a fill, and in here I'm going to reset that, and I'm going to search for B&W for black and white spots, this. All right, and I think I'll bring the balance up to, let's try 0.7, and the contrast at 0.3. I'm going to put this at 40%, just so there's some splotches in there that are barely, just makes it a little bit more grungy. I don't know what to call this, noise, maybe. Okay, so we've got that in there, and yeah. So now let's add some folds to this. Unfortunately, we can do this to some extent in texture as opposed to sort of, sculpting in folds in Blender or what have you. So I'm going to add a fill layer, but I'm going to, I think, alt-click height and use just height. Bring the height up a ways. I'll bring it up quite high so we can hopefully see the effect. And add a black mask and a fill. And in the grayscale, we'll reset this, and we're going to search for folds to start typing that. And this cloth folds large should be in there. And I'll play with the balance and try to get these to show up, play with the contrast. But what I think I'm going to need to do is I'm going to rotate these 90. Still can't see much happening, so let's come in here. And I'm going to change the tiling. I click the lock so that they're not linked together. They're unlinked. They're both editable. Change this one to about 6. All right, now you're starting to see something. And that one you can just play with this and adjust it till you get something that you like. I usually have this around 1. So now we're starting to see something happen here. And if I play with the balance and the contrast, you'll get other effects. So we'll start with something like that. Okay, so this is going to be folds 1, and I'll do another one. All right, so I could probably just start by duplicating this one, and of course you can duplicate things if you want a more exaggerated effect. But I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to just rotate this, say 15, and tile it less than that, maybe even just 1, and not overly evident. And what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to put this one on screen. I think, let's see this, there's a little bit of something there. Let's come back actually to this, set this at maybe 0.7, 1.3, let's try that. So if I get rid of it, see there, it's in there. Okay, I'm going to call this folds 2. Okay, so that's in there, and that's my wallpaper so far. And that's probably okay as it is. I just want to make sure that my wallpaper has some height to it. So I'm going to try 0.15. You won't see anything yet. Now we're going to do the effect in a moment, but I'm going to need, I think, to darken this in order to see the effect. So I'm going to desaturate a bit more, bring the lightness down. Now you can see the folds a bit better, because on top of here I want to create another fill, and I'm going to call this grunge, and it is going to be a whitish color. Now you can see more of the folds, and you can paint out some of this if you want, but I'm going to go with color. I may not have to fool out with roughness. So let's add our fill here, and here I'm going to use some kind of a concrete again. Let's see what I want. You could try anything really. Well, we could just add that in and see how that goes. And this one, maybe we will set this, let's try 50 for a little bit of, so, there it is. Just maybe get some dust or whatever. You can lower it here if you want. Okay, so we got some grunge. Let's go on and do color and roughness. We're going to do dirt. Drag this pretty much all the way up. This a little bit brown to about there. And let's clear this and let's use a smart mask and start typing in dirt and use dirt leak dry. Okay, so with and without, and just maybe lower that. So we're getting some dirt in that wallpaper. And again, it's going to be very light dependent. Okay, just having the light right on it, sort of evenly on it, although the light may be a bit colored, but if you put your lanterns or whatever, you'll be able to make out details. Some will be duller, and that'll look good. So this is going to be dirt 1, and I think I'll just duplicate this, and let's remove the mask, add another black mask and a generator, and just use the dirt generator, and maybe just reduce the scale. We get these bigger splotches, reduce the level. You want some that are a little bit more dark, and you could layer this up more and more with imperfections, but this is the basic layer setup that I would have. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to cut away pieces of it so it looks like it's kind of ripped, and we want to make it sort of ripped, and so that we see the underlying wall underneath there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my edges, and I'm actually going to add a black mask, which means the edges it won't be visible. If I get rid of this, you don't see the edges stuff at all, because we're going to deal with that in a bit. But I'll come back to the wallpaper, and I'm going to add a white mask. Now, if I add a black mask, let me just back up. If I add a black mask, this layer doesn't show through until you start painting, and that starts coming through. But that's not what I want in this case. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to add a white mask, because what I want to do is I want to cut through it to reveal what's underneath it, which will be this wall layer. So now I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to search for my brushes, and I like to start with something like this calligraphy brush, and you can see that it's black right now. So let's try, and you can see when it's black it cuts through, and we are seeing some height. I'm going to come back. If I press X, it'll switch it to white. That's not cutting through, so we want black. And then you just go through it and do some of this kind of stuff. Cut. Let's say that was my first cut and I liked it. Now I want to do some stuff here. I want the wallpaper to be a bit more jaggedy. So I'm going to come to the white mask here that I've been painting on or cutting away from. I'm going to add effect filter, and you can choose either a blur slope or a warp. I'm going to try the blur slope, and you can see what that's done there. And I'm going to leave the intensity divider on 1 because I want a pretty strong effect, and I'm just going to bring down the quality, and that's going to create some kind of pixelation, which I think actually looks good. And just adjust it so that you like the effect. Don't go too crazy unless that's what you want to do. You can try blur, you can try min, and min often works quite well. And we'll eventually bring in that other brown layer. So at this point, what you want to do is I'm just going to adjust the light so I can see it a bit better. Just create some cuts that you like. So let's see, what else can I try? Try this thing here. I'm going to come back to the white mask. That's where we're cutting through. Get that. And that's that one, eh? Okay, well, that's kind of all right. So just do some things here and there. Break it up. Do that. And you don't want to do too many because we are going... No, I don't want that one. We're going to be also going back in. Sometimes the chalk one works well. So I'll just do this. All right, I'll just do one more to give you the sense of how it could work. And I'll just break it like that. All right, I don't know if that looks good or not, but that's the effect we're going for. You might feel that's too high for wallpaper, but we'll see. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to come back to my wall, back to this layer here, this with the edges. I'm going to add a paint layer, and let's try pressing that. And this may not be the right color, but you can see what that's doing. So choose a brush that you think works well, adjust your flow, and you can always change this color. So I'm just going to go in and sort of get the edges to whatever extent I can. You can then press X and erase some of it. We can use a dirt brush to do that. So I'm just going to go in here and just drop that in, and it could be too strong, but it's okay if it's too strong for now. We can always come back, so let's do that. And this is where my other video where I did the post-apocalyptic classroom has more effects, and it's a little bit more believable. I don't know if I want it down there. You know, because there's more dirt effect. So you can layer this stuff up as well. Let's say I do that. Okay, so now let's see, what could we do? We could come to a dirt brush. Let's search out dirt and find that. X, you can sort of swoosh some of it away. I'll just tap over it and that kind of thing. We can also come in here and decide, you know, that's not the color that I want. You know, maybe that's the color we want. And let's have a look at this. I believe I set the height at 0.05. Let's try 0.8. Okay, that was too much. That's 0.8, 0.08, I think is. I'm just trying to get it to separate a little bit from the actual base wall in case we wanted that. And let's see. Let's say we wanted to try that blur slope, breaking this up, although it looks pretty good. Let's see if we can add it. Where do we have to add it? I think we would have to add it here. All right, you see that effect there? Bring down the quality. It becomes a little bit more, I don't know, flaky almost, essentially. And then once again, now, you know, what you have on the bottom, you know, you might decide you want to change. Lighter or darker. You could put wood in behind, wood planks, that kind of thing. All right, I can come back to my wallpaper itself. Let's see if I can find, there's the wallpaper. And no, that's actually okay. Come to here. I could change the color of my wallpaper. You know, all these effects that you can do to get what you think you want out of it. I just want to try a different wallpaper here in the base color. I'm just going to bring something else in. Let's have a look at the one that I used, which was this one. I actually used in my Red Dead Redemption. And so I'm going to throw that in. Yeah, you see? Like that. And then you can adjust the color. And I think for this I had sort of a greenish color almost, and it's not really showing too well. Yeah, something like that. Sometimes I'll throw in, that didn't work. Sometimes I'll throw in a contrast, and you know, we can do a few different things with that. You can sharpen it up that way. I'm not saying that that's what I would do, though, in this particular case. And you just go on and you experiment with different wallpapers and see what they look like. I'll bring this one in and see what that does. Define it as a texture to the current session. Throw it in. You may have to adjust the tiling of this. You might want it more or less. And that is, that would be too, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to come back to this, and I would want this desaturated. Yeah, that depending on your lighting and all. That doesn't look overly good there, but I think you get the idea of how that could work. This could work with with tiles as well, with like a tiled subway wall or something, with some of the tiles broken like that. Anyhow, it definitely takes some experimentation. So find some wallpaper or whatever you want on your surface, cut away at it and see how it works for you and if you can integrate that into your workflow. All right, hope that helps. Thanks for watching and see you next time.